Welcome to Storytelling. Mental well-being is currently topical in our minds, and this week's guest shares his story of how he developed a stammer as a young boy and how this followed him through to adulthood. As an adult, he attended a 3-day therapy course that changed his life. He is also an accomplished public speaker. Sharing his story, please welcome Brian Skelton. Hello, Brian, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Debbie. Thank you very much for inviting me this morning to be on your podcast.
Brian, you developed a stammer at an early age due to childhood trauma. Are you able to share that experience?
Yeah, of course. It happened when I was about 7, I believe that's when my stammer started. My mother died when I was 5.5. She had cancer. And then about 18 months later, my father, he had a heart attack and he passed away. And I believe that's when my stammer started. That's what my sister told me. She said it sort of started around about that time. So I think that's how that affected me. Of course, it affected my brother and 2 sisters, but I was the only one that had the stammer. I'm the youngest in the family.
This then followed you throughout your childhood, and your difference resulted in bullying.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. First, I was in Dr. Nardo's when I was 8, and the first thing I can clearly remember this was when I went into the home. I wet the bed, which isn't surprising because of the short time that all this sort of thing happened. And some of the children would go around singing, "Oh, Brian's wet the bed, wet the bed." And I believe that's when this bullying started, was from that. And when I was at school as well, when I was at secondary school, when I was 11, I went to an all-boys school. And I used to get into a lot of fights with the other boys because they knew how to wind me up about my stammer. And I used to be sent to see the headmaster. And he'd say, "Not you again, Skelton. What's wrong with you, boy?" And it carried on a bit as well when I was adults. But it sort of died away now, but it did happen then as well.
So that's really quite a traumatic experience to go through, knowing that your stammer has developed into bullying. How did this affect your adult life?
It did affect me when I was growing up. At work, sometimes people would say, "Oh, because if you have a stammer," I didn't know this until I went on a speech therapy course, that most people that stammer find it difficult to say their own name. And a lot of the time people used to say, "Oh, don't you know your name then?" And that that used to really annoy me, if I'm being honest. I used to get upset about that. I had a few arguments because something else that I know, that if you have a stammer, if you sing or if you get angry or shout or swear, then you don't stammer. But but I can't go through life shouting and swearing at everyone. So I've sort of learned to relax a bit more about it now. And if someone says that, I tend to laugh at them. "Oh, of course I know my name."
And you had a traumatic adult experience as well, which brought things to a head.
That was quite traumatic. I attempted suicide. It was twice, actually. The first time it was at work. I got made redundant from work, and my speech hadn't been that good that sort of time, and getting made redundant didn't help. And I don't know, I just didn't know what to do. So that was the first time. But the second time, this was to do with work as well. I was in security because My first job was a chef, but I left that job. I got made redundant from that. And my second job was in security. And I was working for a private firm, a security firm. I used to work on the reception desk. And if I'm being honest, I hated it and I really found it difficult, having the stammer, and it used to really affect me. And one day, part of my job was to take parcels in if people delivered something, and I had to sign for it. And this parcel come in one day, and I signed for it as normal, and I was off for the next sort of few days. When I got back, I was told that the parcel was lost, and it was my fault. And my boss at the firm said, "It's your fault, Brian. If you don't find it, we'll all lose our job." And I got a lot of hassle off people at work saying that, "Oh, Brian, you're going to make us lose our job." And I had a lot of problems with that, and my speech really went down at that time. And I really suffered. And that's the second time when I tried to commit suicide. I was supposed to be starting nights, but I didn't say I just wasn't really that good, and I really felt terrible. I was, traumatic, and I really felt bad. And instead of getting myself ready for work, I went to the pub to have a few drinks. Well, no one else in there knew what was happening, sort of thing. And I had a few drinks, and I went home, and I found a bit of rope that I had up in the loft in my flat. And I got that, and I got the table out, and we put a chair on it and put the rope around my neck. But I slightly left the door open as well, because I didn't want anyone to have to break down the door in case they were trying to find me. So as I was standing there with this rope around my neck, I heard this noise, meow, meow. It was the cat, Ginger, from next door. She'd obviously got in through the open door. And I used to feed her sometimes as well. And so I'm hearing the cat, and I could see her. She was walking around sort of the front room, and she walked round to near where I was. So I took the rope from around my neck and got down and fed her. I gave her some milk, and then after that, I sort of cuddled her and put her outside. That's basically what happened that sort of day. And my boss phoned me up as well that afternoon. I went to my bedroom and just laid on the bed after everything that had gone on that day. And my boss phoned me up. He sort of woke me up. And he asked me where I was, and I just told him I wasn't that well, which he seemed to accept that. But then he said that parcel was found that afternoon. I just went back after that, I just cried myself to sleep and went back to bed.
So the cat saved your life?
Yeah, it did actually, yeah. Whether I would have gone through with it or not, I don't know. But as you say, the cat did save my life, yeah.
And did you speak with anyone or any mental health charities after that event?
Not really, no. I should have done. I should have spoken to some charity or mental health people. I did speak to one of my friends or someone I get on with very well, and I spoke with them. But I didn't sort of really speak to anyone. I should have done, really. I think that would have helped, and I would have got over it a lot quicker than I did. I'm one of these sort of people that doesn't really talk about things, and I know I should do now, talk about things, but I sort of keep everything to myself.
What would you say now to those people in the past that affected your life?
To be honest with you, I would say, do you know what you've done to, well, not just to me, but to anybody that sort of treats people like that, bullies or anything like that, do you really know what happens? And would you like someone to do that to you? I think that's the thing I would say. Would you like me to do that to you, to bully you? And I'm sure they wouldn't, because I know, or it's a known fact, that a lot of bullies have got their own sort of problems, and they're doing that just to deflect their own sort of problems.
So the saying, treat others how you would like to be treated, rings true.
Oh yeah, very very true. Yeah, I think that is very true. Yeah, you would treat people how you would like to be treated yourself. Yeah.
What advice would you give to those who have had similar experiences to yourself?
What advice? I would say try to get help and talk to someone about it. I know now I talk about things. I talk to people. I've got people that I talk to now, and I find that really helps. So I would say talking helps, and especially with my stammer, I'd say that, because when I was younger, people used to say to me, "Oh, Brian, talk about your stammer; it'll help you." And being a teenager, I'd say, "Leave me alone. It's my stammer. I'll do what I want." Obviously, that didn't help. But when I went on a 3-day speech therapy course called Starfish Project, I spoke about my stammer for the first time, really, to people who obviously knew what I was talking about. And I was taught a breathing technique which helped me, but I think the thing that really helped me was talking about my stammer. And now, and now he can't shut me up. I'll talk about it. If anyone asks me, I would talk about it, because I think it has helped me a lot talking about it. So and it's given me a lot of confidence as well.
Brian, you mentioned the Starfish Project. Can you tell us how they helped you?
Yeah, the Starfish Project. After what I spoke about earlier about the suicide and all that, I was having a hard time with my sort of stammer, my speech for quite a while. I don't know if you know, the Gareth Gates was on the television doing was it Pop Idol?
Yeah.
This was quite a few years ago. And he has a stammer. And I remember watching that program thinking, if he can do that in front of millions of people on the telly and then in the studio as well, I thought, well, it's that time I did something about my stammer, because I was sort of swapping words. As sometimes, and I still get stuck on some words now, and you could swap the word for something. And I just got fed up doing that, because it is really, really hard work or tiring doing that all the time, swapping words. I mentioned earlier about my saying your name. I even changed my name a few times. Someone might ask me my name, and I might say, oh, Freddie, or whatever name comes to mind at that time, like David. It was easier to say that than to say my own name. And to be honest, I just got fed up with that. So I found out about the Starfish Project. I read an article in the newspaper. It was in the Sun newspaper, in the Dear Deirdre column. I don't know if you read that. It's like there's lots of sort of problems things in there. And this young lady had written up about that she'd been on the Starfish Project. And I read that, and obviously the phone number was there. So I phoned them up and booked myself on the course in May 2005. I did my 3 days there. And I've been back a few times as well. Help out. You can go back anytime. And I find that really helps me as well.
So, Brian, thank you very much for sharing your very inspiring story. And thank you very much for your time.
That's brilliant, Debbie. Thank you very much. It's been great to be able to do the podcast. Thank you for having me.
If you or someone you know has been affected by the issues raised in this episode, then links to the Starfish Project and other mental health charities have been listed in the show notes.